Have you heard the story of Mephibosheth? In the book of 2 Samuel, chapter 9 verses 1, the scripture asks, "Is there still anyone left of the house of Saul, that I may show him kindness for Jonathan's sake? A name buried in chaos, a child lost to history. But heaven remembered. And on the dawnlit streets of Jerusalem, a forgotten prince would step into the mercy of a king." In the early days of King David's reign, when the dawn washed Jerusalem in soft gold, and the ancient stones breathed with the warmth of a new day, a forgotten name drifted on the wind, a name buried beneath war, loss, and silence, a name heaven refused to erase. Inside the palace, King David sat upon his throne, lion-hearted, weathered by battles, yet softened by memory. And though his kingdom prospered, one vow tugged at his spirit, a promise he had never abandoned, the promise he made to Jonathan. David leaned forward, the firelight flickering across the bronze of his armor. His voice broke the stillness like thunder, wrapped in mercy. And he said,
"Is there still anyone left of the house of Saul, that I may show him kindness for Jonathan's sake?"
The room trembled with old history. Ziba stepped into the throne room, a servant of the former king's house, carrying the weight of secrets. His eyes stayed low, his voice careful. He knew the answer he carried could resurrect ghosts. Ziba said, "There is still a son of Jonathan, crippled in both feet. He's living at the home of Marchiah son of Amiel in Lo-debar." The words hung in the air like a forgotten melody suddenly remembered. David's eyes widened, not in pity, but in something deeper. A surge of covenant love. Jonathan's son, alive, far from the glory of Jerusalem, stretched Lo-debar, dry, barren, almost cursed, a land where broken people hid and waited for their stories to disappear. In a humble house of stone lived the last branch of a fallen dynasty, a man wounded not only in body, but in heart, a man who believed kings only brought death. Mephibosheth sat by a window, the sun carving soft lines across his face. His legs, damaged from childhood, lay still, but his eyes carried storms, fear, regret, and the memory of a father he barely knew. Servants gently helped him up, hands steady, hearts heavy. He accepted the help, though each movement reminded him of the life he lost. Years earlier, chaos swallowed Israel. A nurse fled through palace corridors with the child prince in her arms. Her breath was panic, her steps hurried, her fear overwhelming. She stumbled. The child slipped. A moment of horror frozen in time. The infant lay still, wrapped, fragile. The woman cried over him as dust rose around them. Dust that would settle on the destiny of a broken prince. But destiny keeps receipts. David's soldiers rode into Lo-debar, their armor gleaming, their mission divine. The house of Machir trembled. Fear swallowed Mephibosheth whole. In his mind, kings killed threats, and he was the last surviving threat of Saul's line. The journey to Jerusalem felt like a slow funeral march. Dust rose beneath the wheels. Silence wrapped the air. He believed he was being carried to his death. Jerusalem overwhelmed him. Bright, alive, powerful. Two servants lifted him as he entered the throne room, trembling. He bowed, face to the ground. Voice shaking. "Behold, your servant." David rose from the throne, not as a king approaching a subject, but as a friend approaching a friend's son. Compassion softened his face. He lifted Mephibosheth's chin with gentle strength. "Do not fear," he said, "for I will surely show you kindness. For your father Jonathan's sake." Every field, vineyard, and acre that belonged to Saul was restored. The kingdom that once rejected him now embraced him. Ziba bowed deeply, receiving the king's order to work the land for Mephibosheth. Seals broke. Scrolls unfolded. With one decree, the forgotten became wealthy again. But their wealth was nothing compared to the invitation that followed. David said, "You will eat at my table, like one of my own sons." The crippled prince sat among warriors, scholars, and heirs, treated as royalty, not ruin. He laughed again. He learned again. Servants rolled his chair through corridors once feared. David spoke with him like a father. Hope returned like sunrise after a long night. War erupted. Jerusalem trembled. Lines were drawn. Choices had to be made. Ziba lied boldly, claiming Mephibosheth stayed behind to reclaim Saul's throne. David, grieving and distracted, believed him. In sorrow, David transferred Mephibosheth's property to Ziba. When David returned victorious, Mephibosheth came to him. Unbathed, unshaven, his appearance a testimony of loyalty, not rebellion. Mephibosheth said softly, "My servant deceived me. My heart was with you, always." David saw truth in his eyes. David extended his hand. Mercy once again, triumphing over suspicion. "Let the land be divided," he said. Mephibosheth bowed deeply. "Let him take it all. For I am content that my lord the king has returned in peace." He continued to dine at the king's table. He lived under the shadow of mercy, not judgment. His life became a testimony of a promise stronger than war, fear, or broken legs. A covenant kept, a friendship honored, a prince restored. And so the forgotten son found honor, not because of power, but because of love stronger than kings. God's grace sits you at tables you never imagined. Mephibosheth ended every day of his life eating at the king's table. Not as a guest, as a son. Grace elevates you beyond what your past says you deserve. Your loyalty will speak even when you can't. When Ziba betrayed him, Mephibosheth remained humble. His appearance, unwashed and unshaven, told the truth without him shouting. Loyalty reveals itself naturally, it doesn't need performance.